Hello and welcome to another FPL video. My name's Peter, and this time I'm going to have a look back at the action in Game Week 5 and talk about how it affects us for planning Game Week 6. Game Week 5 was a great week for me, despite a risky choice of captain, with Calvert-Lewin blanking. I've broken into the top 200,000 for the first time this season, and my squad is looking strong. I have briefly contemplated the Game Week 6 wildcard, which is looking immensely popular this week, but I just don't feel it's necessary with the strength of team I have. It might cost me a little bit of team value, with so many price rises and price drops already beginning and looking likely to continue, but that isn't enough in itself to make me interested. I still have 2 transfers available this week, and it had always been my intention to bring in at least 1, and probably 2 Arsenal players for their wonderful next 3 fixtures, and that hasn't changed. So, let's look back at what happened in Game Week 5 and see what useful information it throws up to influence our decisions for next week. A logical place to start was the crazy City v Arsenal game. What a great watch for the neutral, and I guess what a stressful 90 minutes for the fans and managers of both teams based on the state of Guardiola's smashed seat in the dugout. Firstly, a little bit of interesting team news as Ben White, Arsenal's most expensive defender, was benched, only to come on at half-time. Now, Arteta did say afterwards that White was suffering from a bit of a knee injury, so we can't really judge if his position is under threat from Calafiori. Calafiori himself scored a wonderful goal for Arsenal and played excellently, as did the entire Arsenal defence against a second-half City onslaught, so he's done no harm to his chances of starting the next match. Timber was also excellent at right-back, showing his versatility and quality, so there is definitely a discussion to be had about who gets the nod in the full-back positions for Arsenal in the upcoming matches. I'd been looking at Tinder as an option for a transfer this week, but now I'm a little wary, as it wouldn't be a total shock to see him benched and White and Calafiori start the next one. That really leaves us with centre-backs Saliba and Gabriel as the best options if we want to invest in that solid Arsenal back line, and with Gabriel's attacking goal threat being really high in their set-piece plays, he'd probably be the one I'd go for. Gabriel has averaged 4 goals per season for the previous 4 years, so we can't be expecting to score every game. 2 in 2 is pretty impressive as it is, and although their fixtures are good for 3 weeks now, the teams they are playing will know this threat and will particularly focus on defending against him, if they can, of course. Arteta will have been furious that Arsenal were reduced to 10 men for the second time this season after Trossard was sent off, also for kicking the ball away. In my opinion, maybe a little unfortunately, as it appeared to be less than a second between referee's whistle and him actually kicking the ball, but everyone judges these things differently. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Trossard won't be suspended for Game Week 6 though, as his ban takes place in the Carabao Cup against Bolton this week instead. Arsenal also made an unusual substitution for them at half-time, taking off Bukayo Saka, who almost always plays 90 minutes. I imagine Arsenal will rotate heavily for the Bolton match on Wednesday too, with Saka probably missing out, so I expect him to be nicely rested for the Leicester match in Game Week 6, and assuming I don't hear anything about any injuries, he is likely to be my number 1 transfer this week. He'll probably end up being my captain as well. My second transfer could also be an Arsenal midfielder, as that's the area I'm considering moving players on in. With Trossard being suspended in midweek, he'll be nicely rested for the Leicester match as well, and I'll be looking to see how many minutes Martinelli plays against Bolton too, as both of them could be good options. Havertz remains a great pick too, if you're looking to bring forward in this week, but that's not what I'll be doing. Arsenal are definitely the team to stock up on if you have transfer to spend this Game Week 6. For Manchester City, the main team news was De Bruyne being out injured and Rico Lewis starting on the bench for the first time this season. We don't have a time frame for the De Bruyne injury yet, but I don't think he's a player to target this week anyway. Lewis is at least cheap enough to be a wait and see. Newcastle away in Game Week 6 isn't a terrible fixture, but with my other great options in defence, I'll probably bench him anyway. I do want him for Game Week 7 though, and I'm hoping to learn more about his likely game time over the next 2 weeks. If he has lost his place, then eventually he's probably someone you have to sell, but at only 4.7 million there's absolutely no rush. The first game of the weekend saw Chelsea take West Ham apart at the London Stadium. The West Ham defence looked a shambles throughout and continues to have one of the worst expected goals against in the league. With the investment in their squad over the summer, you would really expect them to sort this out sooner rather than later, but for now, they're becoming a team to target with your attacking players, and they have Brentford, Spurs and Man United coming up in the near future. I have no players from either Chelsea or West Ham currently, and with the Chelsea fixture starting to look a lot more difficult from Game Week 6, I won't be considering investing. However, When the fixtures pick up again in Game Week 12, one or two of their attacking assets could be great. Sancho started this game and provided an assist for the first goal, and although he was hooked in the 60th minute, he has played so little football recently that I'm not surprised, and I don't think that really affects his prospects going forward. Although Neto has played left wing this season, Chelsea manager Maresca has told us that he expects Sancho and Mudryk to be fighting for the left wing spot, and I fully expect an on-form Sancho to make that position his this season. At only 6.3 million, I'll definitely be looking at him over the next 6 game weeks, and I'll be a strong consideration for Game Week 12, which is when I'm likely to play my wild card. Another Chelsea player who's been looking excellent recently is Nicholas Jackson. He took his 2 goals superbly against West Ham and could be another great asset come Game Week 12 at 7.7 million. For the same reasons as Sancho, I won't be looking to bring him any sooner though, despite his good form. Villa played at home to Wolves this week, and I was delighted to see Morgan Rogers finally get not just 1 but 2 assists in the game after 4 weeks of blanking, plus a surprise goal from Ezri Konsa to really help my week. Wolves actually started the game really brightly and deservedly went ahead through Matheus Cunha, but they couldn't add to their lead, and their high work rate and running they put in early in the game eventually led to their downfall, with players being visibly tired as the game progressed. Once Villa found their stride in the second half and equalised in the 73rd minute through Ollie Watkins, there only looked to be one winner. Konsa and John Duran duly applied the finishes late on in the game. Watkins' 3rd goal in 2 games has him in great form for a plum fixture away at Ipswich. Great for owners, sadly of whom I am not one, and I would usually encourage buyers to bring him in, but if you're looking to get a forward at that kind of price, I'd rather be bringing in Kai Havertz with Leicester and Southampton both at home in the next few fixtures. See, I still expect Watkins to do well, just not as well. Rogers at 5.1 million remains a good hold at his price, with Villa's nice fixture run continuing for another 4 weeks, but Duran isn't a player I want at all, despite his incredible 4 goals off the bench, because he isn't getting the starts yet, and you simply don't want a regular bench player in your FPL teams. Newcastle continued to disappoint on the pitch, and Fulham really dominated them in this 3-1 victory, racking up 3.21 expected goals. Newcastle have simply looked poor all over the pitch, and despite 10 points from their first 4 games, a result like this has been coming. Even Nick Pope wasn't able to save them this week. I worry for them at home to City in a week. After City scraped to a last-minute equaliser against Arsenal, they will want to remind everyone of what they can do. Anybody who still has Isak or Gordon should really be looking to offload them this week. If you have both, you might be in wildcard territory. Fulham have put up some good performances so far this season, but their fixtures look somewhat tough suddenly, and I wonder if they can keep the good results flowing. Smith Rowe scored with the help of an unusual Pope error, handing me a lovely 8 points, and he managed 90 minutes for the first time this season, but his time in my team might yet be drawing to a close. I haven't quite decided yet, but I currently intend to bench him away for a tough fixture at Nottingham Forest in Game Week 6. If Fulham surprise me in that fixture, perhaps I won't take him out the following week, but with Manchester City away in Game Week 7, he'd be on my bench again anyway, which isn't great. Raul Jimenez scored another well-taken goal, and Adama Traore caused all kinds of trouble on the Fulham wing, both worthy of note for later game weeks, but not for now with Fulham's poor fixtures to come. Everton were once again my biggest disappointments of the week. Calvert-Lewin wasn't a success as my transfer in, let alone with my rogue decision to captain him, and Pickford once again conceded as Everton threw away yet another lead. But it wasn't all bad. Everton were missing Mykolenko, which was a surprise after Sean Dyche's comments last week, and they still have Branthwaite out, along with Seamus Coleman and Nathan Patterson. But Branthwaite and Patterson both played for the under-21s at the weekend, and they look likely to come into the team against Palace, along with Mykolenko, who will have fully recovered from his illness. That's quite an improvement for a team who conceded only a few chances to Leicester, much better than their previous matches. It was only Leicester, you might say, but Everton's upcoming fixtures are against easier opposition than their first 4 games, and clean sheets will be easier to come by against the likes of Palace, Ipswich and Southampton than it was against Spurs, Brighton and Villa. I still think the improvement is coming. Now Calvert-Lewin had a couple of chances, but not the same level of involvement as in his previous 2 matches. He has a string of good fixtures to come though, so I think points are on the horizon for him. Liverpool produced another excellent performance and their 4th clean sheet of the season, despite coming up against a bright Bournemouth attack. Kelleher started with Alisson absent and was an able deputy, producing a couple of good saves when needed. We're not sure though how long Alisson is out, but it isn't believed to be a bad injury, so I wouldn't be looking to bring in Kelleher despite the 4.4 million price, as he won't be in the Liverpool team for long. Trent had his first attacking return of the season, assisting Diaz for his 2nd goal, plus the clean sheet, giving him his first double-digit haul of the season. He's doing what you'd expect at this premium price tag, and looks very creative in this Liverpool team, so I'm sure that will continue. Diaz remains in great form with another 2 goals, and in doing so becomes Liverpool's highest scoring player above Salah. He's without doubt been my most successful pick this season, and his importance to the Liverpool team is undeniable. I just can't see him getting dropped anytime soon. However, his good fixtures are coming to an end in a couple of weeks, and I think those who haven't already bought him in have probably missed the best of his points. So with Arsenal by far the team to target over the next 3 game weeks, I would no longer be looking to bring Diaz in. Salah disappointed his new owners and those who captained him with only an assist against Bournemouth. He will always continue to do well, but for those looking to bring in Saka this week, selling Salah may well be the best option and is a transfer I would absolutely recommend. Jota lost his place to Darwin Núñez for the first time this season, and Núñez hit a screamer for Liverpool's third goal, doing himself no harm in the process. There were rumours of a late injury to Jota that are as yet unsubstantiated, but he did make the bench, so if there was one, it doesn't look to be long term. Nonetheless, he may not be guaranteed to come straight back into the team for Liverpool's trip to Wolves in Gameweek 6, and with the fixture on getting more tricky in the near future, he has become a player who I may look to replace with an Arsenal asset this week myself. If he plays a lot of minutes in Liverpool's Carabao Cup game this week, he's more likely to be benched for the Wolves match. Vice versa, if he plays very few minutes from the bench, he's probable to start against Wolves. I'll be keeping a close eye on that. Southampton and Ipswich are still teams to target rather than to own players from, and they played out a 1-1 draw with Ipswich equalising late on. One player of note who may become interesting as a cheap 8th attacker whom you bench every week is Tyler Dibbling at 4.5 million of Southampton. He looked sharp and scored in his first start, so he could become one of the better 4.5 million options in midfield should that continue. The Spurs attack looked rampant this week against Brentford after conceding early to an excellent Bryan Mbeumo finish. They ran out worthy 3-1 winners, creating 3.51 expected goals in the process and conceding only 0.58 against, although that did seem very little having watched the chances that Brentford created. Son had 2 assists and a 10-pointer for me, and got into far more central areas and goal-scoring positions than in his previous 2 games. Hopefully that's a sign of things to come for his owners, but I am not sure I will remain one of them. Although his next fixtures against Manchester United and Brighton are okay, it may be he may sell to help create the money to fund the move to Saka, plus another Arsenal midfielder, as that is the only way I can afford to get 2. It's not that I don't want to continue to own Son, I simply miles prefer the Arsenal midfield for the next 3 game weeks, and I've always intended to invest in them this week. Solanke scored his first goal of the season for Spurs and got into some great positions, so he's become a player I might consider in future game weeks. I'd like to watch Spurs play a few more matches first though to gather information, but if their attack continues to gel, Solanke will get a lot of chances this season and could be great for FPL. Brentford didn't perform well, but Bryan Mbeumo continues to be a standout performer with another lovely goal, and facing West Ham's poor defence in Game Week 6 is a nice option if you have the chance to bring him in. Brentford's fixture run is good for a while now, and although I'm prioritising getting in Arsenal players this week, I want to own Mbeumo by Game Week 9 at least. Kevin Schade, who was the talk of the town after Wissa's injury last week, may not be the player we'd hoped he would, after being benched against Spurs, but a new candidate may have emerged in Fabio Carvalho, who played 86 minutes and is only 4.8 million. With Brentford's great fixtures, doubling up is a pretty decent move, and I may end up bringing Carvalho in too, if he continues to start for the next few weeks. The Brighton Forest game was another exciting 2-2 draw, and we gained a lot of helpful information from it too. João Pedro only made a 20-minute cameo from the bench, so it's been a disaster 2 weeks for owners. Plus he appeared to be injured in a challenge from Gibbs White, who was sent off in the process, and Pedro was seen limping on the pitch at points during the remainder of the game. He may well turn out to be okay, but Brighton's fixture run is pretty awful for 6 weeks now, and he just has to be transferred out. Although Mitoma looked good, and Welbeck scored a lovely free kick, they both have to head through the exit door along with João Pedro. Forest started the game brightly on the counter and earned an early penalty, but it wasn't the expected Morgan Gibbs-White to step up and take it. It turned out to be Chris Wood instead, who coolly dispatched it and looks to be an even better option now, only 6.1 million. Gibbs-White, as well as being suspended for 1 match, is less appealing having lost his penalty duties and is no longer a player I'd consider owning at any time. We also saw an interesting half-time change with Nico Williams coming on for Alex Moreno. I didn't really expect this at all, but it takes away my interest in Moreno as a player I might like to own. Einer's minutes seem far more guaranteed, so he is now the obvious choice of the 2 players at fullback to own. The last game to discuss was Palace against Manchester United. Dean Henderson finally recorded a clean sheet, and 9 points for his loyal owners, as Palace held on for a 0-0 draw. He made a string of saves in the first half to keep United out, but he wasn't the only keeper to do well. Onana did fantastically in the second half to also get a 9-pointer, particularly when he denied Nketiah and Sarr in quick succession. Both sides created goal-scoring chances which they wasted, most notably by Eze, who really had to do better with 2 fantastic chances. He continues to create though, and Palace's fixtures are okay enough I feel I wouldn't look to sell him if I owned him. You really feel with Eze that attacking returns are just around the corner. We also saw Mateta get hooked at half-time this week. Klassen said it was tactical, but with the arrival of Nketiah, who stayed on, we could see a reduction in Mateta's minutes. If that happens again next week, I would really consider moving him on. As for Man United, they looked a decent attacking threat, and with good fixtures coming up from Gameweek 8, they may have a couple of attacking players worth looking at. Fernandes is always a 90-minute man, and at 8.3 million now, has the potential to be a really good value. Garnacho is also a player I think looks really good when he plays, but we need to see him start regularly for a couple of weeks before we want to think about owning him. That's all for now. I hope you found this video helpful, and as always, please hit the like button and subscribe if you enjoyed it. See you for the next one.